After a bit of time, Coleta comes into the video store and gives the siblings a brief. Grace reaches back out to the siblings for help on a new commission. Since the incident with the original 3 machines, they've been low on mechs to use in projects. Thus, Belobog agreed to cooperate with the industry leader 3 Gates Corp on a small project where they will provide Belobog with some heavy machinery assets in exchange for some technical documents. However, the data they want involves awakening Horse's prototype's logic core by bringing it into a hollow, as Ether interacting with the logic core enables it to fully awaken into an AI. Unfortunately, there's a third party that also wants to partner up with 3 Gates, so Grace and this third party will have to compete to see who 3 Gates partners chooses. The siblings help Grace bring the mech into a hollow, but as she's fiddling with the AI core, she's overrun by ethereals. Thankfully, a mech comes in to save Grace. It defeats all of the ethereals, and Grace recognizes the mech as a modified Guardian Mark II. The owner of this mech is revealed to be a woman named Betty Brenda. In Betty's eyes, she and Grace are old enemies, as they went to the same engineering school together. To her, Grace is her nemesis. Despite this seemingly heated rivalry, Grace doesn't remember Betty at all. Coincidentally, Brenda just so happens to be the third party interested in teaming up with the 3 Gates Corp. Betty insults Grace, calling her the Iron Witch, and expresses how fed up she is with how Grace treats others, as she puts mechs above people. Betty vows to destroy and humiliate Grace in the tech battle for 3 Gates Corp and leaves. A few days later, Grace reaches out to Phaethon again for help, this time with calibrating some of the mech's AI functionality by doing some simple tasks. The mech had gone haywire on its first startup, so the calibration is supposed to help it maintain control after booting up. The siblings ask Fairy if she could fix the ether-corrupted data. She refuses, saying that she cannot interact with AI that could pass the Forbidden Fruit test. This is against her code. She also says that she prefers not to deal with ether-corrupted data herself, as she finds it disgusting. After calibrating the machine, Grace attempts to enter her commands before realizing that her control panel is dead, so she leaves to grab a battery pack. While she's gone, Betty comes in and chats with Phaethon for a bit before attempting to fix the mech herself. In the process, she secretly takes a copy of the mech's AI, all while going on a very passionate rant about how much she hates logic cores. In her eyes, machines don't need to have a personality. She becomes so heated that she accidentally gives the mech a slap in her anger, causing it to boot up the mech's defense system. As it begins to move towards Betty, Grace runs over and commands it to shut off. Betty exclaims to Grace that 3 Gates Corp has officially recognized her mech and that she is locked into the tech battle. The siblings then head home for the day. The day of the tech fight finally comes around, and Betty wants to show off her new mech OS to Grace before the fight. When Phaethon and Grace appear at the location Betty sent, she starts using voice commands to show that she implemented a new personality OS into her mech. The commands were executed flawlessly, and much to Betty's surprise, instead of Grace becoming upset, she begins to compliment the mech and Betty's work. Betty decides to show off more of the mech's amazing skills on the way to the meeting location with the 3 Gates Corp's rep. On the way, Grace notices that the mech was moving too similarly to how her own mechs move. This causes Grace to ask the mech what a valid seat height would be, to which it gives 140 centimeters, the same height that Horse had embedded into the prototype's OS as a seat height for Coleta, so that she could pilot it from the get-go. Grace tells Betty to either shut down the mech or uninstall the personality OS, as it's still corrupted by ether data, and can still suffer from malfunctions. Betty, of course, refutes the fact that the OS is stolen and asks the mech to take care of Grace. The mech immediately malfunctions and begins to target Betty. After firing a few shots, the mech runs off and the others follow behind. Betty begins to freak out as the mech gets more and more corrupted, admitting that she has no idea how to fix the situation, and that everyone should flee and let PubSec or the HIA take care of the mechs instead. Grace full-on yells at Betty that this is her mech and her problem to solve. She can't put other people's lives at risk because of a mistake that she made. After realizing Betty has no resolve or way to stop the mech, she asks for the control panel, to which Betty relents. Grace begins to divert power around the mech to try and make it to the OS, but it's too slow, causing her to have to manually reset the mech from the switch in the middle of its chassis. Eventually, Grace makes it, and after a close call, she shuts down the mech. Public security quickly comes in afterwards to help clean up the situation, and Betty loses her mechanic's license as punishment for putting everyone in this situation. As everyone leaves the Hollow, Grace tells Betty that once she's off of probation and gets her license back, Grace can give her some data of the personality OS that she can research and make her own. Grace then explains that the reason she's so obsessed with mechs isn't because of machinery. but because using these machines can replace actual soldiers and workers, protecting them from being in the Hollow and saving countless human lives. This is inspired by the fact that Grace's parents were Hollow workers. When Grace was much younger, her parents left for a project in a Hollow and never returned, reported deceased. After this, Coors adopted Grace, and she made it her life's work to make sure the same fate couldn't befall anyone else. She thanks the siblings for their help once again and their return home shortly after. After a bit of time, Coletta comes into the video store and gives the siblings a brief on the mission that Grace and the rest of Belobog have been working on. They've just been hired for a reconstruction project on a nearby elementary school. However, during the project, they noticed that a companion Hollow was nearby the school and told the principal that it would be best to report this Hollow to the city administration. However, the principal had yet to report it. In fact, after the construction was completed, he paid the invoice exactly on time, which, according to Coletta, never happens. The principal wants Belobog out of his hair. Coletta and Grace come up with the bright idea to infiltrate the school, with Grace posing as a teacher and Coletta as a student, which they accomplish through the connections that Anton has. The school had planned a field trip and a choir presentation for people in Lumina Square that the principal will have to attend, leaving the school unattended during the field trip. The only access to the Hollow is through an abandoned parking lot by the school, and the principal has the only key. They concoct a plan to steal the key from him while he's distracted by the kids singing due to their choir presentation. Meanwhile, the other kids are chatting, 3 of whom are important: Emmy, Leisha, and Dan. These 3 decide that they don't want to sing in the choir because Leisha and Dan found out that Emmy was hiding the fact that she's transferring schools soon. After a long string of events, they are finally convinced to attend the choir performance as normal. During the singing, Grace manages to steal the key from the principal, but he became a little suspicious with how close Grace had gotten, thanks to a quick save from Emmy, where she calls out that Grace was just trying to get dust off his clothes. They avoid detection, and the principal awkwardly says that the dust is chalk from the school before storming off after a comment on morality. With the key obtained, Coletta and the siblings head into the Hollow, where they find that a group of criminals had been hired to mine ether crystals in the surrounding area. While the ether activity is low, the Hollow is very unstable, meaning that the high impacts from mining or fighting could cause the Hollow to rapidly expand. Coletta mentions that the dust from the mining is probably the chalk that the principal claimed was on his clothes. They agree to keep the fighting with the ethereals as minimal as possible to lower the chances of disturbing the environment. As they continue deeper into the Hollow, they find the principal, who says that he knew Coletta was disguising herself as a transfer student, so he came to check in on the Hollow. He admits to his plan of using the gang to mine the ether to earn some extra cash on the side, so his kid could live a better life, which is completely and utterly ironic, considering that he's putting all of the other kids in the school at risk from the Hollow expanding. The principal escapes as the gang fights their way out, which causes the Hollow to expand. While Coletta is yelling in anger, the siblings ask Fairy to scan the environment, where she picks up the voice of a new individual. This ends up being Emmy, the kid from the choir group. The group retreats to attempt to find the location of Emmy. Coletta gets Ben and Anton to help as they spread out and check the locations of all biosignals in the Hollow, which reveal that there are additional children that came in as well. As they check each location, they find Emmy, who was near an ethereal. After saving Emmy, her and Coletta have a heart-to-heart about their hatred for adults, as Emmy admits that she is in fact the principal's daughter. She states that the other kids in danger are probably Leisha and Dan. She asks Coletta with help finding them and bringing them out of the Hollow. After rescuing them, Anton and Ben bring them out of the Hollow as Phaethon and Coletta check the location that Leisha and Dan told them that they had last seen the principal. The crew arrives and confronts the principal. Coletta gets him riled up, and as he begins to rant that he is only doing what any normal adult would do, turning a blind eye to make some extra cash. Here, Emmy butts in, yelling at him for putting her friends in danger. After the two of them berate the principal for a while, he agrees to report the entire situation to the association and see what they do. After a couple weeks, Emmy reaches out to the proxy and Coletta to give them an update. She transferred to a new school and lives with her mom now. The sub-Hollow danger rating had raised, so the school was moved to a new area. Her father had gotten fired, but it didn't take long before a school associated with Tops swooped in and asked him to be the principal. Emmy and Coletta have a cute moment where Emmy tells Coletta that she wants to grow up strong into an adult like her, and not like her dad. Phaethon, Coletta, and Emmy enjoy some snacks, and eventually everyone returns home. The siblings sit down to watch the court case for Nicole as she represents the residents of Canvas Street. But as the airship is preparing to pick up the Cunning Hares, Nicole gets a bunch of blank messages from Rain and decides to confront Phaethon about it. She explains that both her and anyone close to Rain has been getting blank messages from her for weeks, but that she had sent a ton just that morning and thinks something may be wrong. The siblings ask Fairy to check if the messages are actually blank, which they are. However, the location of where she's sending them from was not encrypted, and shows that they're being sent from the Ballet Twins building. The siblings agree to go check out the Ballet Twins, but asks if they can take Anby and the others with them in case they need to go into the Hollow. Nicole agrees, saying that she won't need them in court. The crew starts to investigate inside the building, and after clearing some ethereals, they encounter Victoria Housekeeping Company, who was very hostile until Korrin mentioned Nekomata and Eos were the ones that helped her out of the Hollow during the Vision debacle. Victoria Housekeeping mentions that they were employed by the owners of the building to keep it in check. And the siblings explain the entire situation on why they came to the Ballet Twins, along with the fact that they are Phaethon. They did not mention about Rain being a hacker, however. Unfortunately, during this conversation, Nicole calls and says that all of the Cunning Hares were registered to be on the stand at court, so they have to hurry back to get to the airship. Thankfully, this works out, because the carrot data that Victoria Housekeeping had was outdated, so the siblings are able to continue their investigation with them instead. Before they continue further into the building, they leave to escort the rest of the Cunning Hares out of the Hollow, and meet up to talk with the members of Victoria Housekeeping before starting the investigation. During this meetup, Rena actually mentions that Eos had a previous master before the siblings, and that they took him in after Eos lost its last master. This is of course referring to Carol Arna, Belle and Wise's teacher. Rena mentions that one of the reasons she has so much insider information is because she works for very important high-up people, and who better to confide in than a housemaid who keeps her mouth shut. Meanwhile, Perman and Nicole are boarding the airship. Sarah ended up accepting his terms, and gave him instructions to open a briefcase on the airship 2 hours after takeoff and to follow the instructions, as someone will get him out and leave New Eridu. The rest of the Cunning Hares show up, as Billy mentions he switched his respiratory module recently and can't switch it back to intake mode. They all board the airship and leave, as the siblings enter back into the Ballet Twins with housekeeping. As they enter, Lycon mentions that they can do their maintenance as they go, so the main goal will still be to find Rain as quickly as possible. Along the way, Rena explains the supernatural rumors behind the Ballet Twins, that when the building was swallowed up by a hollow, a pair of famous ballet twins, two sisters, died here. They would warn intruders with flashing lights, and if they would refuse to leave, then they would cause a blackout and show up in the darkness to harvest their souls. She continues saying that the true reason they are here is to see if the rumors are true or not, and report back to the owners. Lycon speaks up, saying that the atrium path could be blocked off by a power outage, as it could cause the doors to instantly close. A warning which happens almost instantly, as the lights start to flicker faster as it becomes a race to the doors. Lycon almost makes it, but is cut off by a stray ethereal at the last second, and the doors fully close. Fairy mentions that Korrin and Ellen can't just cut through the door, as the area is unstable, and any massive impacts could cause the hollow to distort. After a short while, Lycon managed to find that the building has a power supply underneath, but since they can't access it, they need to go to 2 separate rooms to check the malfunction and restore power. While exploring the area around the central control room, they find notes of a story of the ghosts in the building. After collecting all the clues, they realize that when the building was consumed by the Hollow, there was a group of 7 that tried to escape. However, when they got to the elevator, 5 of them decided to leave the twin dancers behind to allow for more weight for their items and belongings. This unfortunately led to the twins' demise. They still overloaded the weight of the elevator, however, and the other 5 perished as well, with their last words stating that this was karma for leaving the twins behind. They make it to the control room, and everything there seems to be operational, which means the issue must be from the second room. So the siblings lead Korrin and Ellen to the room and find the issue, turning the power back on and opening the door to Building B. When they enter, Eos finds Rain's backpack, and a playable device starts to play music, which attracts one of the ethereal dancers. After a short fight, Eos throws the playback device into a spatial fissure, causing the dancer to disappear, but is immediately attacked by missiles. Ellen rushes in and knocks out the ones responsible, and then passes out due to using all of her energy. Lycon recommends we help them out of the Hollow and continue the investigation after. After exiting the Hollow,
great day.
Want to haggle?
It's a great day.
Want to haggle?
Want to haggle?
How are you?
How are you?
It's a great day.
How are you?
It's a great day.
Want to haggle? How are you?
Want to
How are you? Want to
It's a
haggle?
great
Great day.
It's a great day. How are
Want
you?
to
It's a
haggle?
great day.
Rena and Lycon interrogate one of the soldiers and learns that Rain was kidnapped and is being kept on the roof of the building while they are tasked with keeping people out. And so everyone enters the building again, and as they defeat some of the grunts, they find a signal transmitter and files showing the blimp that is transporting everyone to the court case. At the same time, Billy calls, saying that Perlman opened up a briefcase which had released a gas that knocked everyone out, including the pilot. Billy is the only one that did not pass out due to his air intake malfunction that he mentioned earlier. He mentions that the ship is on autopilot mode, but that the course has been changed to the Ballet Twins Tower. The siblings mention that Rain must have been forced to change the signal and direction of the airship, while also creating a fake signal to make it seem like it was still on the right track. Lycon comes up with a new plan to save Rain before the airship collides with the Hollow and have her undo the changes she made. After a short sprint, they run into some thugs who throw Rain into a pit for knowing too much about the plan. Lycon thankfully rushes in to catch her, as the rest of the housekeeping get behind the thugs to knock them out, although some manage to escape. Rain jumps into action, saying they need to make it to the rooftop as quickly as possible, but gets cut off by leftover thugs as they blow up the path to the roof. Fairy calculates a new path, and Rain says that she can disable the autopilot from the roof, but someone will have to steer it out of the Hollow. Lycon says he can do it, and they rush to the roof using the new path, but right before they reach it, the dancing twins return. Victoria Housekeeping jumps into action and fight the dancers until they back off and disappear. Corin and Ellen then jump into action and break through the roof. Lycon, realizing he does not have much time to reach the ship, goes full overdrive and rushes up the building as he barely makes it onto the airship and flies it to safety. Once the airship lands and they evacuate everyone inside, the siblings and Victoria Housekeeping decide to take Rain back into the Hollow to leave through the main exit so that public security doesn't know that they were involved, while Billy will tell the police that he is the one that piloted the airship and landed it. Unfortunately, Perlman wakes up before public security gets to the scene and gets back onto the airship and leaves, flying it outside of New Eridu to the Outer Ring. The following day, Rain cracks into the memory unit from the prototype from Belobog during the Monument incident. Meanwhile, the trial is postponed till they find Perlman. The siblings meet up with Rain to retrieve the decrypted memory unit, and Rain explains how she got involved in the first place, which was trusting a shady commission due to the high payment involved, and got kidnapped to help them hack the blimp. She did not get to hear who employed the ones who kidnapped her, but did overhear the main reason to attack the ship was to get rid of Perlman, and something was mentioned called the sacrifice. The siblings take the memory unit from Rain and go back to the video store, where Grace and Kaleda are already waiting to listen to the audio log inside. Horse's final moments were captured as he asked the mysterious figure mentioned from before what the creature was inside the monument. As this happens, both Lycon and Grace are standing atop a building watching the video store, having a conversation which shows that they know about the sibling being Phaethon and the fact that they now know about the sacrifice. They mention that their master tells them to help the siblings in their investigation as they are too involved to keep them out, but could become allies for them in the future. While it's not mentioned until later, the master of the Victoria Housekeeping is the current mayor of Eridu and was actually friends with Carol Arna in the past. The mayor will become a huge helping hand in the future of both Belle and Wise. Speaking of Belle and Wise, they believe that Perlman knows who is behind all of this, so they plan to find Perlman in the Outer Ring. After losing Perlman at the Ballet Twins, Lycon approaches the siblings about a commission. He'd like them to stop the theft of a painting that belongs to one of his clients. He shows Phaethon a post on internet that describes the theft, and while they think it's just an edgy post, Lycon ensures it must be true. He offers double pay for the commission, and Phaethon eagerly accepts, quickly accompanying him into the Hollow. Together, they stop the theft and apprehend the suspect, which turns out to be the daughter of the client who the painting belongs to, Lilac. After revealing her roleplay name,
My name is Lempeluch Aznabel Phantomhine Lilac.
Lycon and Phaethon escort her out of the Hollow. Upon exiting, Lycon and Phaethon press Lilac for information, where she explains that she wanted to steal the painting in order to get into the organization. The theft was meant to be an initiation into Mockingbird, a gang of phantom thieves that Lycon seems to recognize. Despite trying to talk her out of the act, Lycon allows her to continue with her plan, with a warning that Mockingbird is dangerous. As she leaves, Lycon expresses his frustration in trying to reach Lilac and his hesitation to intervene with Mockingbird. He insinuates that he was once involved with Mockingbird and that the organization is not what it seems. He lets Lilac go, deciding that he needs to find a way to educate her in a proper way, rather than just telling on her to her parents or reprimanding her. The next day, he requests Phaethon's help in investigating Lilac's new habits. with Phaethon playing the role of his master. They discover that Lilac had gotten a part-time job at the noodle shop in Lumina Square in order to buy the painting legally. Lycon wonders if Lilac is happy with her many duties with absent parents, and then begins to reflect on his own past, when someone told him that family is an everlasting curse that follows you forever, like a shadow. He, however, disagrees, saying that family should not be a curse, and mentions that an old friend said that. Worried that she will use the money from her job to buy the painting in order to give it to Mockingbird, Phaethon continues accompanying him on his reconnaissance mission. After speaking to a black market seller, they learn that Lilac has indeed purchased the painting. Since Lycon seems very knowledgeable in this field, Phaethon begins questioning Lycon's line of work and his past. Remaining vague, he mentions that it concerns his nemesis. Now that Lilac has purchased the painting, Lycon is even more determined to stop her. The two go to confront her and try to stop her after witnessing her being made fun of by some other students for being edgy. She lashes out, saying that selling the painting is the only way for her to become a companion of justice and join Mockingbird. When Lycon realizes he won't be able to dissuade her, he offers to help. Armed with weapons and a carrot, she plans to meet at the Ballet Twins with Mockingbird the next day. Lycon laments their confirmation, vowing to help Lilac fulfill her heart's deepest desire by meeting her emotional needs. As they leave, Lycon receives a call, saying that the fish has taken the bait, and Mockingbird contacts him. He requests more help from Phaethon in the next coming days before parting ways. The next day, Phaethon leads Lycon through the Ballet Twins' hollow as he arrives early in order to clear the ethereals from Lilac's path. They meet with her, where he asks one last time if she truly wants to meet with these people. She insists, and Lycon leads the way. As Lilac meets with Mockingbird, Lycon appears to betray her. Raiders appear in the background to grab her, as they mock her for being gullible enough to fall for the plan. Lycon raises his leg as if to attack her, before he rapidly knocks out the guards holding her. As the leader of Mockingbird questions their deal, Lycon reveals that he indeed made a deal, but not with them. The day prior, Lycon asked Phaethon to act as a front and organize a meet with Mockingbird. In this meeting, with their leader, codenamed K, he reveals that Lilac is just a target. They intend to kidnap her and hold her for ransom in order to score big. Lycon and Phaethon agree to help Mockingbird with the kidnapping. As they hang up, Lycon tells Phaethon of the true plan: pretend to work with them, gather evidence against them, and then turn them into public security. Lycon wants to help Lilac save herself by duping her, and he makes Phaethon promise not to tell her any of this. Back to the current time, Lycon confronts Kay and comforts Lilac as Mockingbird attacks. He swiftly defeats them, indulging Lilac's edginess with a speech of epically edgy proportions before kicking Kay's ass. He tells Kay to never mention the name Mockingbird again, or nobody will be able to save them. Afterwards, Lilac tearfully apologizes for getting Lycon into this situation. She says that although she thought that Mockingbird was suspicious, she went along with their plan because they made her feel special, so she stopped thinking. Lycon forgives her, saying that he also walked the wrong path for a time. Public security conveniently arrives and arrests all of the Mockingbird goons. As it turns out, Lilac had set an automatic SOS to call public security if she was in the hollow for too long. The public security officers thank her, telling her that she did a good job for taking down an entire crime syndicate, as Lycon calls her a true companion of justice. Later, Lilac comes to visit the video store. She tells the siblings how much better she feels after getting to look super cool, and that she decided to start her own comic, where the hero realizes that justice lies in everything they do. Lycon praises her as she calls him the best attendant she's ever had. As Lilac leaves, Lycon talks about how pleased he is that she can now be truly happy. He thanks Phaethon and tells them that the crime syndicate they took down was not actually the real Mockingbird. He reveals that he is very familiar with the real one, as he was once deeply involved with them, being a former member of the gang himself. He begins telling a story of his past, where a young Lycon, who was not missing his eye or leg, was practicing edgy lines similar to Lilac with the old acquaintance that he mentioned previously. This acquaintance is Hugo Vlad, the leader of Mockingbird. We'll hear more from him later. Rena walks into the video store with her current client, named Granny Leisha, who has given Rena quite a peculiar task. She wants to seek out a silly sweet cake on 6th Street. Rena came to the siblings for help, as no one knows 6th Street better than they do. The sibling goes out of their way to get a picture of anything that could possibly resemble a sweet cake, but after showing all of them to Granny Leisha, she changes her mind, saying that she is looking for the drooling sweet cake, before changing again to ask for a loudmouth sweet cake. Rena pulls Phaethon aside and explains that she is currently undergoing an assignment for the Housekeeping Association, and that the demanding grandma is her subject for evaluation. After the explanation, Rena suggests that maybe the sweet cake she is looking for could be a music record, so they head over to the Bardic Needle to obtain some more pictures. As they show Leisha the images, the sweet cake again changes to a wavy cake that looks like Rena's Bangboo Drusilla. Thankfully, Fairy searches Leisha with the keyword waves online and finds an article from 41 years ago about a beauty pageant dropout. The winner of the tournament was supposed to receive a trophy called the Crest of Waves, and the article includes an image of both the dropout and the trophy. Rena confirms that Granny Leisha was indeed the dropout and believes if we can take her to the Crest of Waves trophy, she will finally be happy. Rena mentions the competition is held every year and that she actually participated in the competition in the previous year, not as a competitor, but as a makeup artist for everyone involved. Conveniently, this means that she has connections to the event organizers and can ask for a commemorative trophy. Since it's getting late, Rena takes Granny home for now, saying that she will reach back out the following day. The next day, Granny Leisha barges in and begins looking behind the shelves at the video store. As she does this, Rena appears, asking Granny if she's still looking for the sweet cakes. Rena attempts to show her the pictures from the previous day again, but an ad for Next Gen Invasion comes on the TV, which is a movie about a hollow appearing in the city. Granny Leisha screams out, "The hollow is coming!" as if convinced that the ad was real, quickly grabbing Drusilla from Rena and running out. Once they catch up with her, she asks who they all are and has no memory of interacting with them before. Rena suggests that Granny Leisha may be suffering from cognitive corruption syndrome, which is a disease that may develop in anyone as they age if they've spent too much time in a hollow, regardless of ether aptitude. Symptoms include rapid memory decline, cognitive disorder, and repetitive speech. In severe cases, their memory can regress back decades, making them forget everything that occurred afterwards. Rena apologizes for the inconvenience and takes Granny home while saying that she'll meet back up with the siblings at the video store. Rena returns and explains that, after asking Granny's neighbors, she has been living alone for quite some time and does indeed suffer from cognitive corruption syndrome. She was not intentionally giving Rena a hard task for the assignment, but had actually lost her memory. The siblings ask why Drusilla didn't try to leave Granny's grasp, and Rena gives details on her backstory, saying that when she was younger, she had a doll that was used as the base for Drusilla. She didn't have many friends at the manor back then, so all she had to talk to was the doll, Drusilla. Her father didn't like the doll, thinking that it was something only servants used, and tried to force her to throw it away. Rena would hide the doll anywhere she could to prevent her father from finding it, constantly telling it, "I can do it. I can protect you." When Rena decided to become an agent and to use Bangboo in combat, she gave the Drusilla doll over to the manufacturer, who found a little recording device inside it, filled with the phrase, "I can protect you." Rena transferred the recording data along with the name Drusilla to the Bangboo. According to Drusilla, after Granny snatched them, she kept repeating, "I can do it. I can protect you," and Drusilla confused Granny for Rena, and therefore didn't try to escape. Realizing how late it is, Rena takes her leave and requests that Wise and Belle let her know if Granny shows up at the store again. A few days later, Rena shows back up at the store, asking if they had seen Granny, as she had gone missing. Before her disappearance, she mentioned heading to White Waves Hospital in search of the sweet cakes, the only issue being that the hospital was within a hollow. She reveals that the day that Granny dropped out of the pageant was the same day a hollow disaster struck and absorbed the White Waves Hospital. Granny Leisha had thrown herself into the hollow to try and save the children within, as she worked there as a maternity nurse. She fought hard to get 3 children, who she would call sweet cakes, out of the hollow successfully. This is how she acquired cognitive corruption syndrome, and these 3 kids are the sweet cakes she's been looking for. After catching up with Granny inside the hollow, Phaethon and Rena find her crying and hysteric, saying that she didn't manage to save any of them. Her memory has regressed so far back that she does not even remember saving them. Upon seeing Rena, she grabs Drusilla, still confusing it for one of her sweet cakes. She holds Drusilla tight, hoping to protect what she thinks is the last alive sweet cake. Ethereals begin to attack and Rena fends them off while telling Granny about the current lives of the children she saved. The smiling sweet cake still loves to smile, and became a maternity nurse just like her. The loud sweet cake doesn't like to talk much on the phone, but will come and see her after his concert finishes. And the drooling sweet cake has already become a senior hollow investigator, fending off Ethereals himself. Rena finishes by telling Granny that she didn't lose the sweet cakes, they just grew up. After defeating the Ethereals, Granny loses her memory again and doesn't remember anything that happened the last few days. Sadly, she also doesn't remember her sweet cakes when they come to visit her. While it's heartbreaking that she does not remember her heroic actions and her darling sweet cakes, the Housekeeping Association arranges to put her in a nice nursing home, and all the sweet cakes agree to visit her on different days. Chingy returns to the New Eridu Public Security Office for a meeting about Operation Hooked, led by Zhu Yuan. Here we meet Seth, another public security officer. He's a very cute cat boy, and his brother is the commissioner of Janus Quarter. Operation Hooked is a plan to strike against the Mountain Lion Gang, a dangerous gang that has somehow always evaded public security after entering a hollow and disappearing. This gang is led by a man named Razor, with a dangerous new recruit being Jane Doe. Chingy and Seth were unaware until much later, but Jane Doe is actually working for the New Eridu Public Security and is going undercover to bust the gang. She's a Rat Thyran woman, an expert manipulator and infiltrator. Not much is actually known about her, as she keeps her past under wraps as to not blow her covers. One thing that we do know is that she's Random Play's best customer. Chingy, Zhu Yuan, and Seth all go to perform the operation, and after a quick scuffle with the gang members and Jane Doe, the gang tries to capture some civilians and flee, but Seth, being such a hero, decided to offer himself up in trade for some of the civilians. The operation ended with Seth and some civilians being captured, with Jane Doe and the other core members of the gang managing to flee. Once Zhu Yuan and Chingy return to the public security office, Zhu Yuan explains to Chingy that the operation's real purpose was to put on a show for Jane Doe, so that she would gain trust with the gang members and rise through their ranks to learn their secrets, and even shows Chingy Jane's ID card, which shows that she transferred to their team from the throne quarter of New Eridu. However, Seth was not aware of this, so him being captured wasn't exactly planned. While public security is coming up with a new plan to try and rescue Seth, Jane Doe and the gang arrive at one of their transfer stations in the Ballet Twins Hollow, the closest transfer station to their main base. Jane Doe puts on more of a show when Razor, the boss of the gang mentioned before, shows up at the base. He's impressed with her performance and mentions that she may have a chance to be a trusted bodyguard. Once the boss leaves to find out how to move the gang out in groups, Jane heads over to Seth and mentions that he can't break free from the restraints due to being injected with muscle relaxants. Seth tries to butter her up and says that she's smart and has a good heart. She could turn over a new leaf and leave the gang and still be a good person. Jane follows this up by threatening to mutilate one of the civilians for trying to hide something, which ended up being just water. She then orders the guards to give Seth 3 times as much water than the rules say, and to not give the civilians any water until Seth finishes his. Seth chugs the water and finishes it as soon as possible, so that the civilians can get their share. She then leaves to gain information from the lower level guards around the station. The one watching over Seth and the other hostages mentions that Seth keeps lecturing them like a preachy teacher. The information she gains from the other guards is that the station is well equipped with tons of supplies, and that this must be the only transfer station they have that leads to the main den. She also notes that the guards here seem to be newbies. Jane continues and manages to trick one of the guards into letting her explore the surrounding area. While exploring, she's blocked in her path due to needing a high-level keycard, so she decides to return to the return station for now. When Jane returns to the station, she's met with the guards almost having a brawl, which started because one of the lower guards, the same guard that was watching Seth, got upset at another gang member for stealing the food and other resources that were for the civilians. Jane breaks the fight up and manages to calm down everyone around, then gaslights more of the guards into giving her information on the patrol team and the fact that the last door that blocked her path needs a special electronic keycard, which is made by spare parts and is held by someone powerful. For Jane to create her own version of the keycard, she needs to go back to the New Eridu Public Security office in Lumina Square and steal some equipment. So she has a gang member lead her outside the hollow to meet up with her liaison that can drive her back to the Lumina Square to get the needed materials. In turn for the gang member to lead her out, she wants Jane to bring back a copy of a movie as well. The first stop is in Lumina Square to get the resources for the keycard. However, due to the fact that she's listed as a criminal, she needs to find a way inside while keeping the guards distracted. She does this very easily as she tricks some drunks to rush inside and manages to slip into the back of the office and grab the master key to the equipment room, allowing her to gain the needed materials to create the fake keycard needed at the transfer station. Once she has what she needs, she heads over to 6th Street to check out the video store there to rent the movie the gang member wanted. And surprise, surprise, look who we have here. This is the only help the siblings Wise and Belle give during this entire mission, since they are not a part of the operation and have no idea what is going on. After Jane apparently rizzes up the siblings and obtains the movie, she returns to the transfer station and is met with some gang members complaining that the hostages are being escorted to the bathroom too frequently, which Seth passionately declares is because they forced him to drink so much water. Jane allows the guard to escort them to the bathroom again, however notices that it's taking them quite a long time to return. Shortly after, another guard barges back in, saying all the hostages are gone, and the guard escorting them left with them. After a short chase to catch up with them, Jane meets them at the exit at the same time that Razor shows up on the scene. To show faith towards the gang, Jane pushes the guard off the roof of the building, seemingly to his death, and then gives a speech that motivates the gang to push against public security instead of running away like scaredy cats. During this speech, she also saves Seth from being thrown off the roof and invokes a duel with him to prove her worth as a bodyguard. Once the time for the duel arrives, they escort Jane to the main base, which is through a fissure that leads to Hollow Zero. Once they enter the Hollow, they force Jane to fight her way to the spot of the duel, seemingly to wear her out beforehand, but she obviously makes it just fine. However, once she arrives at the scene of the duel, Razor's right-hand man tries to break Jane's hand, but she swiftly avoids the sneak attack. She learns that Razor is the one who ordered him to do so. That way, she can lose the fight against Seth, allowing him to go up and kill him instead. Razor starts to choke Jane and she decides to start talking shit, which causes Razor to try and attack, but Seth shoves him out of the way. He tries to give a big speech to turn Jane to his side, but she instantly agrees to take him up on his offer, and they have a cute interaction going back and forth, where Jane mentions he can escape the restraints because she had him drink all the water to cause his body to get the muscle relaxants out faster. Razor rightfully gets angry at this back and forth and tries to take down both of them. Thankfully, Jane and Seth manage to take him down and begin to flee the scene, but get cornered at a fissure. Jane decides to buy some time for public security to arrive, and she starts to talk mad shit to the guards by calling them a daddy's boy. They argue for long enough that public security, along with Juyuan, Qingyi, and thankfully the guard that she threw off the building, who had landed in a fissure, arrest the entire gang. A few days later at the public security office, Qingyi makes fun of how Seth tried to defend Jane after the arrest, saying that she can turn over a new leaf and doesn't need to be arrested. Juyuan mentions that Jane is already set on another mission and had to leave the office, but had to return a DVD, which while Jane is there, she signs up for the highest tier membership the video store offers. Camellia Golden Week creeps up on the siblings as they start to see flyers advertising the event all over the city, and even on TV. This is a week where all of the shops in the city hold special deals and sell special items for a limited time. A fun event for all involved. The siblings, after discussing if they should take a vacation to enjoy the week of celebration, ask Fairy to bring up recommendations for Camellia Golden Week. In true Fairy style, she only pulls up negatives before stating, "Suggestion."
Do not participate in Camellia Golden Week.
Knowing that all the shops will be preparing for the event, Belle and Wise talk to their neighbors on 6th Street to ask for recommendations on how to spend their time on vacation. Unfortunately for them, every shop owner just promotes their own business as a way to spend the time, so they return to Random Play to come up with their own ideas. With her usual perfect timing, Nicole solves this for them as she bursts through the door with an amazing idea for holiday plans. Capitalize on the security gaps from a hollow. She shows off a supply box that she managed to steal from a sub-hollow called C41 that has been marked by the HIA as in decline, meaning it will gradually shrink over time until it completely vanishes. Normally, these hollows are still guarded by public security to fend off hollow raiders. However, since most of public security is having to watch the streets for Golden Week that's going on, the hollows are left wide open. Phaethon agrees to help Nicole, sending Eos to Hollow C41, while Nicole finds a locksmith who can crack open the supply box. Once inside, the siblings confirm that there is a plethora of supply boxes inside the hollow and return to give Nicole the good news.